Hello friends, today we get to talk about all of my most anticipated releases for 2024, and I am seriously so excited to share all of the things that I have found. I've been working on this video for months now, finding all of the titles that I'm excited about, that I'm interested in, from authors that I have read before, from authors that I haven't read before. Hopefully there's something on here that you haven't seen someone else talk about. Let's get into it. Okay, so we are gonna go in order of release date. Some of these are probably going to change, some of them are probably not going to be super accurate, but in a general basis, we're gonna start in January and work our way to the end of the year. So the first one is actually already out on the time of filming this, but I wanted to say that I'm excited about it, and it is Miss Laid in Parts Half Known. This is the next book in the Wayward Children series by Shauna McGuire. I have read every other book in the series so far. It's a novella series. We are following these children who find themselves in these alternate portal worlds where they are the heroes of their own story, and then they find themselves back in our world, and it's quite a traumatic experience for them. In this book, our main character is Ancy, and she has a penchant for finding lost things. There's dinosaurs on the cover. I'm excited. Next up is Everyone on This Train is a Suspect by Benjamin Stevenson. This comes out on January 30th, and I am very, very excited to see what this is going to be about. I read Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by this author and really loved it. I recommended it to my brother. He started reading it. He's been really enjoying it. It was just a really refreshingly fun mystery thriller story. I had such a good time reading it and absolutely blazed through the audiobook when I read it, so I'm really excited to see what this author does next. I really loved how the author broke the fourth wall in the first book, and it looks like that's still happening in this one. Let me read you the synopsis. When the Australian Mystery Writers Society invited me to their crime writing festival aboard the Gone, the famous train between Darwin and Adelaide, I was hoping for some inspiration for my second book. Fiction this time. I needed a break from real people killing each other. Obviously, that didn't pan out. The program is a who's who of crime writing royalty. The debut writer, the forensic science writer, the blockbuster writer, the legal thriller writer, the literary writer, the psychological suspense writer. But when one of us is murdered, the remaining authors quickly turn into 5 detectives. Together, we should know how to solve a crime. Of course, we should also know how to commit one. I just absolutely loved the tone of the first book that I read from this author, and I'm so excited to jump into this pretty meta book about crime writing. The next book on my list is by Kylie Reed, and it is Come and Get It, and it comes out on January 30th as well. I actually already own this book through Libro FM's influencer program. They have a certain number of advanced listener copies that are available for us every month, and I am really excited to pick this up. I have not read Such a Fun Age by this author, and I would like to read that before I get to this, but Come and Get It is definitely something that I would like to get to in 2024 as well. It looks like our main character is an RA who has this strange opportunity pop up, and Millie's starry-eyed hustle becomes jeopardized by odd new friends, vengeful dorm pranks, and illicit intrigue. The synopsis is calling this a fresh and intimate portrait of desire, consumption, and reckless abandon, and I couldn't be more excited. This next one, the cover, absolutely stunning. This is what intrigued me so much about this book. It just looks horrifying, and I can't wait. This is something that I originally found on NetGalley. The cover just really drew me in, so I requested it. We'll see if I get approved for an ARC. Otherwise, I'll be purchasing on release day because this sounds so interesting. Let me read you the synopsis. One look can kill. Riley has not seen a single human face in longer than she can reckon. No faces, no eyes. Not if you want to survive. It sounds like a new neighbor moves in down the street, and all Riley wants to do is look at them, but she can't because when you look at someone, you go crazy, you die. As they grow closer, Riley's grip on reality begins to slip, and she can no longer fight her deepest desires. All Riley wants to do is look. I'm obsessed. That comes out on February 6th, as does our next book, which is 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart and Other Stories. This is by the author of Thistlefoot. I read this when I did the Goodreads Choice Awards back in 2022 now, and this took me by surprise in such a good way. I absolutely loved this so much more than I ever thought that I would, and I've just been waiting to see what this author does next, and it looks like she's putting out a short story collection. I feel like I always love short story collections. Like my favorite book of 2022 was a short story collection, but I don't have a lot of them on my shelves. And from last week's video when I pulled the prompt on my TBR jar that was to read a short story collection, I didn't have any, and you guys all gave me so many good recommendations. I feel like I want to keep that list somewhere and prioritize those, and I'm really, really excited to see what she does with a shorter story because I did love Thistlefoot so much. So I don't know anything else about this collection, and I don't really want to, so we're not going to read a synopsis. We're just going to enjoy it together. Next up on February 13th is An Education in Malice, and this is by S.T. Gibson, who is the author of A Dowry of Blood, and this author is giving us not one, but 2 new releases releases in 2024, so that's very exciting. Better yet, An Education of Malice is a Carmilla retelling. I just love a vampire story, and Carmilla, I think, has the potential to like really do well as a retelling. I read the original story last year and didn't love all of it, but I do love the way that we as a society today have kind of reclaimed the Carmilla story, so I think it is ripe for a retelling, and I'm really excited to see what S.T. Gibson does with it. Next up on February 13th is a release from my favorite author, T. Kingfisher. It is What Feasts at Night, which is the sequel to What Moves the Dead, which, believe it or not, was the first T. Kingfisher that I ever read. I am so interested to see where she's gonna go after this book, because this is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher, and in this story, it fully wraps up that plotline. So I'm actually more excited about book 2 than I ever was about book 1. When I read this, it wasn't my favorite thing that I had ever read, but I knew that there was something here that I was really going to love. And I think this is going to be a longer series. I think she said that it's going to be at least 3 books. She had an idea for a book in this world, but it was like book 3 or 4 or something. And so now she's writing the first couple books in the series in order to get to that point. And I think that as a concept is just so intriguing, because What Feasts at Night is so short and so is this. I really don't want to know anything about it. I just want to pick it up and start reading. But I'm sure that there is going to be some fungus going on, and I love a spooky mushroom, so I can't wait. Next up is Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice. And you guys, I don't know if I do want to read this. I put it on this list because I've read the first 3 books and I enjoyed the first 3 books, but I feel like this series is just dragging on a little bit too much for me and I'm not super interested in it anymore. So let's pull up the synopsis and see what it's about. Okay, it looks like Finley and Vera are up to some tricks again. They're going on a girls' weekend getaway to Atlantic City while they're negotiating a deal with a dangerous loan shark. Okay. That does sound cheeky and fun, and I do like things that are cheeky and fun. I think I am going to pick it up. It comes out on March 5th, and it is by El Cosimano. Somehow my battery is already almost dead, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I have Spindrift. Do you guys drink Spindrift? If this wasn't so expensive, I would drink like 3 of these a day. They are so good. The half tea, half lemon is my favorite thing ever. If you're a person who drinks tea in the wintertime and you wish that you could drink tea in the summertime, but you don't want to drink like sweet tea, this is a game changer. It's incredible. Okay, what are we talking about next? Sunbringer. This is the next book in the God Killer series. And I love a book that respects your time. This is a fantasy book under 300 pages that tells a whole story and you get connected to all the characters. And I was really intrigued about what was going on in here, so I'm interested to see what Hannah Kaner is gonna do next. I, again, don't want to read the synopsis, but the next book in the God Killer series is coming out on March 12th. Coming out on March 19th is A Botanical Daughter by Noah Medlock. This is not an author I've read from before, but this is something that sounds so far up my alley that I feel so comfortable putting it on my 2024 most anticipated releases, even though I've never read from this author before. Let me tell you about it. This book has been compared to Frankenstein, one of my favorite books of all time. It is fungal horror and it is set in Victorian times. I don't think a more perfect book for me could exist. Let me read you a little synopsis. We have our 2 main characters, Simon and Gregor. Simon spends long hours in a dark basement working on taxidermy art, love, and Gregor is working on exotic plants, and he finds a fungus that is intelligent. Horrifying. He decides to use a recently deceased corpse to grow his fungus, and horrifying things happen, and this is perfect for me. This is perfect for me. I can't wait. The last sentence of the synopsis is, who is cultivating whom? I can't wait. The next one is The Angel of Indian Lake. It is the 3rd book in the My Heart is a Chainsaw, Don't Fear the Reaper series. I read both of these in November when I was doing my Goodreads Choice Awards horror, and My Heart is a Chainsaw is one of my favorite horror books of all time. The only reason I'm holding up the second one and not the first one is because I purchased 2 different copies of this book for myself, and I gave both of them away as presents because I could not stop myself from making other people read that book. This is probably the thing that I'm most excited about. I do not think that anything is going to come as close as My Heart is a Chainsaw did to being the most incredible horror of all time, but I will be racing to the bookstore on March 26th to get The Angel of Indian Lake. April 2nd, Here We Go Again is coming out. This is by Alison Cochran. She wrote Kiss Her Once for Me, which was this really cute, adorable wintry romance, and I had such a fun time with it. And so I was, you know, she was on my radar. I was interested. I was like, what is she gonna do next? Our two main characters, Logan and Rosemary, were childhood best friends, but they have grown apart. They haven't spoken in a while. They still live in their same small town, even though they had these big dreams to do other adventures. They end up crashing their cars into each other and going on a road trip. And I am excited to see where this road trip takes them. Stuffed into the gayest van west of the Mississippi, the three embark on a life-changing summer trip from Washington State to the Grand Canyon, from the Gulf Coast to coastal Maine that will chart a new future and perhaps lead them back to one another. The reason why there are 3 people in this car instead of 2 is because their beloved English teacher only has a few months left to live and they're going on an adventure with them. It sounds chaotic and heartwarming and I want to read it. Another romance coming out on April 2nd is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I read Part of Your World by this author and really enjoyed it. And I, again, just like Alison Cochran, was like, let's see what she does next. I'm interested. I'm not gonna auto buy, but I'm curious. I'm curious to see what she's gonna do. I will be immediately picking this up on release day because it looks like our main character has created this Reddit thread about this like curse that he has. Every girl he breaks up with goes on to find the person that she's going to marry right after she dates this guy. And so he's kind of gone viral on the internet for having this curse. And then he meets this girl who's saying that the same thing is happening to her. So they agree to date each other. And then once they break up, their curses will cancel each other's out and then they'll like go find their soulmates. And I'm assuming that they're gonna fall in love and I can't wait. On April 9th, from the author of Cultish, Amanda Montell, we are getting The Age of Magical Overthinking. I wasn't even aware that she was writing another book until I saw this from Allie of Allison Pages in her 2024 most anticipated releases. And I was hooked immediately. It looks like we are exploring the combination, the intersection, if you will, of manifestation and intrusive thoughts, and that is horrifying and so interesting. And I love the way that Amanda Montell talks about language, and I think this is just going to be so interesting to read. Last time I read a book by this author, my brain was so full of thoughts that I had to make an entire video talking about language and cults, so I cannot wait to see what comes out of me reading this next one. Very similar theme, different execution is You Know What You Did by K.T. Nguyen. This is a book that I have as an ARC from NetGalley, and I am just so interested to see how this plays out because it is a thriller in which our main character's intrusive thoughts are coming true, seemingly, and I'm so curious to see how this book handles that subject matter and if it's done in a way that is helpful instead of hurtful, because I could see it going either way. But this book is being published by a small imprint of Penguin Random House. It's called Tiny Reparations Books, and they have a specific focus on uplifting marginalized voices. So I will be reading this soon, and I really hope that it is a win, and I will keep you updated. Funny story, Emily Henry's new book is coming out on April 23rd. I'm gonna read every Emily Henry that she releases. I have loved pretty much all of them that I have read. No, I have loved every single Emily Henry that I have read. I eat it up. I love the banter. I have a good time. I don't need to know what the synopsis is because I know I'm gonna read it, but let's find out together. Okay, first of all, I love the color of this. It's just such a nice deep periwinkle and I enjoy it immensely. Okay, yes, I remember this. So it looks like Daphne and her fiance break up because her fiance realizes that he's actually in love with his childhood best friend and they get together. But her fiance's best friend was dating someone at the time, and so Daphne and her fiance's new partner's ex get together as roommates. They move in together, and then I'm assuming they fall in love. I really love how Emily Henry writes her characters as people who are in and around the book industry. I love it when she does that. It looks like that's happening again here because our main character is a child librarian, and I just really want to know more about the ins and outs of being a librarian. Emily Henry always does a good job of putting her main character's professions into her writing, so I'm interested to see how that's going to play out in this book. It looks like there's going to be a little bit of fake dating going on in here. I can't wait. It's at this point in the video that I'm trying to find more words to describe how I feel about these things without saying I can't wait and I'm excited, but I can't wait and I am excited and I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. The Brides of High Hill is coming out. It's the next book in this Singing Hills cycle series, novella series that I absolutely adore. It's coming out on May 7th. Wow, this is already the 5th book. That's absolutely wild. I did not realize I had already read 5 of these. Okay, we're following our cleric, Chi, and they are accompanying a beautiful young bride to her wedding to the aging ruler of a crumbling estate situated at the crossroads of dead empires. The bride's party is welcomed with elaborate courtesies and extravagant banquets, but between the frightened servants and the cryptic warnings of the Lord's mad son, they quickly realize that something is haunting the shadowed halls. I don't need to know any more than that. I want ghosts, I want storytelling, I want history, I want a bride. This is gonna be gothic and incredible. Yay. Okay, one of my favorite things that I read in 2022 was Kaikei by Vaishnavi Patel. She's writing another book. It's coming out on May 21st. It is called The Goddess of the River. The cover is stunning. Whoever designed these covers is doing a fantastic job. I love Kaikei's cover design. I love this one's as well. Looks like we have our Goddess of the River who's serving as a caretaker to some mischievous godlings who roam her banks. They make a powerful sage mad, and our main character is cursed to become mortal, bound to her human form until she fulfills the obligations of the curse. I absolutely love Kaikei so much, and the audiobook for it was fantastic, so I'm going to try to get my paws on a copy of an audiobook for this because the experience of reading Kaikei on audiobook was so incredible, and I really hope that they use the same narrator because that was an amazing experience. The next S.T. Gibson is apparently an urban fantasy romance. I was surprised. I'm excited, but I was surprised. It's called Evocation. It's the start of a new series by this author. It seems to be dark academia coded. Our main character, David, has an occultist father. He's a high-powered Boston attorney. He's nearing his 30th birthday, and he's moonlighting as a powerful medium for a secret society. One day, the devil shows up looking to collect on an ancestral deal. I love a deal with the devil type book. I love an occult book. I'm really interested to see how the romance comes into this because I was told this was romance. Honestly, I'll read anything that S.T. Gibson writes, but the synopsis of this does sound really far up my alley, so I think it could be a huge win. Julia Armfeld is writing a new book. This is the author of Our Wives Under the Sea, which is one of my favorite books that I read this year. It is called Private Rights. The cover has yet to be revealed. It's looking like it's going to be released on June 6th. And this book is once again watery. It has been raining for so long that everything is flooded and old religions and rites are starting to come back. We're following 3 sisters and their father who has passed, who was this really famous architect who kind of helped to make the land navigable again after all of the flooding happened. And I'm gonna read anything that Julia Armfeld writes. Our Wives Under the Sea really hit me over the head because my cat had just gone missing before I read that book, and I was trying to process that. And she has this really incredible way of taking something that I didn't know how to put into words and just describing it so effortlessly. I guess we'll see if it's something that hits as close to home or if it doesn't work as well for me because I don't have such a personal connection in the timing that I'm reading it, but we'll see. Next up is Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. That comes out on June 11th. I honestly love the idea of a cursed film, and I've read a couple of books in this genre, but nothing has really hit as hard as I wanted it to, and I do trust Paul Tremblay to do what I want with this genre. I read Silver Nitrate, which I enjoyed but wasn't a huge win, and then I also read Mr. Magic, which again I enjoyed but wasn't a huge win, and those are both kind of plays on this theme of a cursed movie, or in Mr. Magic's case, a cursed TV show. In June 1993, a group of young guerrilla filmmakers spent 4 weeks making Horror Movie, a notorious, disturbing art house horror flick. The weird part, only 3 of the film scenes were ever released to the public, but Horror Movie has nevertheless grown a rabid fan base. 3 decades later, Hollywood is pushing for a big budget reboot. The man who played the Thin Kid is the only surviving cast member. He remembers all too well the secrets buried within the original screenplay, the bizarre events of the filming, and the dangerous cross lines on set that resulted in tragedy. As memories flood back in, the boundaries between reality and film, past and present, start to blur. But he's going to help remake the film, even if it means navigating a world of cynical producers, egomaniacal directors, and surreal fan conventions. Demons of the past be damned. But at what cost? You can catch me at the bookstore purchasing this on June 11th. It looks like the cover may have red sprayed edges as well, which I am a sucker for a pretty book, and this one looks stunning. The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley comes out on June 18th, and I have only read one book by this author before. I read the guest list, and that seems to be everyone's favorite, so I haven't really picked up anything else. I do have The Paris Apartment. I borrowed it from my friend. It's on my shelf. I do want to get to it so I can give it back to her. The synopsis feels like it is really like what I'm looking for in a thriller, so I think this one probably has a higher chance of success than maybe some of her other works do. I feel like in my brain, I don't want to pick them up because I know that the guest list is pretty much everyone's favorite anyways. So you let me know in the comments if you like a different Lucy Foley. This comes out on June 18th. I don't know if I told you that already, but I do love how Lucy Foley's books are all like these archetypes. It really just itches something in my brain that I love. Welcome to the opening weekend of The Manor, a luxury resort built on top of old secrets in an ancient wood. The founder, the lover, the mystery guest, the kitchen help, the detective. All have an agenda, all have a past, but not everyone will survive. This is feeling very The Menu coded, and I am interested to see how it plays out. Riley Sager is writing a new book. It is called Middle of the Night. It comes out on June 18th. We have a male protagonist. Finally, our main character, when he's 10 years old, has a sleepover in his backyard in a tent with his best friend, and his best friend is abducted in the middle of the night. 30 years later, our main character finds himself back in his childhood home where this happened. He's hearing strange things at night. Something is going on. We're gonna uncover the mystery. The last line of the synopsis is, the past has a way of haunting the present, and that is just my absolute favorite trope in horror, is the past haunting the present, and that's basically all that ghosts are. But I am interested to see how Riley Sager does this, because now that he did really go there with The House Across the Lake, I'm really interested to see. I feel like I have more suspense when I'm reading his books now, because I'm curious to see how far it's gonna go, if it's gonna be realistic, if it's gonna get speculative. We have a creepy wood, we have a mysterious institute doing clandestine research. I'm really hoping that this is a win, because The House Across the Lake I loved so much. I know most people hated it, but I really want him to go there again, and I hope that he does in this one. Grady Hendrix, another big name, is releasing his new book on July 2nd. I can't find any information about this other than that it is called Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, and it is apparently folk horror, and that's all I need to know. I will be picking it up. India Holton has a new book coming out. She wrote The Mysterious Society of Lady Scoundrels. I have, I think, the second one up here, which is The League of Gentlewomen Witches. I've read all 3 books that are currently out in this, and I was first, when I read this, I thought that it might be another book in this series, but it looks like it's a brand new series from her, but same tone. So it's called The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love. It is book number 1 in Love's academic series, and we are following rival ornithologists who are hunting through England for a rare magical bird. It's a historical fantasy rom-com, just like The Mysterious Society was, and it looks like instead of being pirate coded like Mysterious Society was, it's Indiana Jones coded, but with manners, tea, and helicopter parasols. I will be reading. Stephen Graham Jones is giving us not 1, but 2 books in 2024. The second one is I Was a Teenage Slasher. It's slated to come out on July 16th, and this is a slasher from the perspective of the killer, which is one of my favorite things in horror. I keep saying that as I do this video. I have a lot of favorite things in horror. I'm sorry, she contains multitudes. I'm very excited to read something that is from the perspective of the killer. I absolutely love books like this, and Stephen Graham Jones writing slasher is one of my favorite things to read, period. Since we've already talked about My Heart is a Chainsaw, you guys know this is coming. I'm really excited. Okay, Catherine Steadman has a new book coming out. It's called Look in the Mirror. I absolutely devoured 3 of her books in 2023, so of course I'm picking up anything that she writes. I think I only have 1 book left to read from her that's currently out. It's called Mr. Nobody, but this one is called Look in the Mirror, and Nina's father dies, and she's left behind his vacation home in a balmy tropical paradise. But I'm sure things are not going to stay paradise for very long. I never am super intrigued by the synopses of Catherine Steadman's books. They're never like, oh, I absolutely have to pick that up. But something about her writing, I keep flipping pages. I can't stop myself. So we will see if the same happens for Look in the Mirror on, when does this come out? July 30th. Casey McQuiston has a new book out. I really loved loved Red, White, and Royal Blue and One Last Stop. I didn't love her YA, but this is adult, so I am excited to see what we are going to get from her in the pairing. It looks like we have two bisexual exes who accidentally book the same European food and wine tour and challenge each other to an international hookup competition to prove they're over each other. Interesting. I was not aware that this was a hookup competition. That does not sound like something I would be into, so I may hold off on this and see what you guys think of it. Let me know in August. It's supposed to come out August 6th. Let me know if you guys read it, what you think of it, because I think I may hold off on reading this one because a hookup competition does not sound like something that I am interested in reading. But if you tell me it's good, I will read it. My landlord just called me and he's on his way to fix my leaky windows, which is good. I'm happy that he's coming to fix the windows, but we're gonna have to pause this and finish this later. It's about to storm, so I'm not sure if the light is going to be favorable. So if not, I will see you tomorrow to go over the rest of these. I'm back. I took the dogs for a walk. I am damp. The windows, hopefully, are fixed. Let's chat about another book from T. Kingfisher, my favorite author. It is A Sorceress Comes to Call. This is based on a Goose Girl retelling, and I, for one, love the story of Goose Girl. I remember reading, I'll put pictures if I can find them. It was this young adult series that was all of these like fairy tale retellings. They were romances, and I loved the Goose Girl one so much, and I've been on the lookout for Goose Girl retelling, and I'm so excited that T. Kingfisher, of all people, is doing it. And this book, according to the Amazon listing, is 356 pages, which means this is another long book from T. Kingfisher. She's been writing a lot of novellas. Don't get me wrong, I love a novella, but I do prefer T. Kingfisher's longer books. The Hollow Places and The Twisted Ones are my two favorite books by her. These are both horror, and they're about 340 pages. So I think this is the length that I really prefer from T. Kingfisher, so I'm really hoping that A Sorceress Comes to Call is going to be a huge win for me. I've never seen her write longer fantasy that's a retelling. Like her fantasy romance series, the Saint of Steel series, is longer, but these are cozy fantasy romance. So I'm really, really intrigued to see what she does with kind of a darker story and fantasy. I think it's gonna give everything that I want. Song of Mandana has a new book coming out on September 10th. It is a follow-up to The Very Sacred Society of Regular Witches. From the synopsis, it seems like we're in the same world or a similar world as The Very Sacred Society of Regular Witches, but we're following different characters. The blurb is hilarious, so I'm just gonna read it to you. Sarah Swan was once one of the most powerful witches in Britain. Then she resurrected her great aunt Jasmine from the very recently dead, lost most of her magic, befriended a semi-villainous talking fox, and was exiled from her magical guild. Now she, slightly reluctantly and just a bit grumpily, helps Aunt Jasmine run an inn in Lancashire, where she deals with her quirky guests' shenanigans, tries to keep the talking fox in check, and longs for the magical future she lost. I love foxes so much. It is my deepest, darkest fantasy that one day I will live in a cottage in the woods, and I will come across a fox, and for whatever reason, that fox is not able to be returned to the wild. It needs to live in my house, and I will have a fox as a pet. I don't want to take a fox from the wild if it isn't supposed to be a pet, but I desperately want a fox as a pet, so I'm excited to read this. I would read anything with a talking fox, so drop your talking fox recs in the comments, but even more excited since it's from an author that I have known and loved before. Mariana Enriquez wrote Our Share of Night, which is here. Chunky book, gigantic book. The biggest thing I read for the Goodreads Choice Awards video, and I did enjoy it, and I know it's a lot of people's favorite thing, and I think I do just tend to, this is gonna sound completely in opposition to what I just said about T. Kingfisher, but I do like shorter horror. I don't love a 500, 600 page horror. But Mariana Enriquez has more books that are being translated into English, and this one is called A Sunny Place for Shady People. It's supposed to come out on September 17th. It is a collection of short stories. Like I said earlier, I want to be in my short story era, so I'm really, really interested to see what she does in a short story, because I know what she does when she has 600 pages, and I do think that I absolutely ate up the actual horror pieces of this. It just felt more literary historical fiction than it did feel horror. So I am incredibly curious to see what she does with a short story collection where she has 12 short stories that are going to be supernatural and creepy. Silvia Moreno Garcia calls this a diabolical collection of stories featuring achingly human characters whose lives intertwine with ghosts, the occult, and the macabre by one of Latin America's most exciting authors. I am so curious to see what this author does in a short story collection. The next three I have barely any information for, but I am incredibly excited about them, so I wanted to just mention that they exist. So Brie Paulson has a new book coming sometime in 2024, hopefully. This is the author of Garlic and the Vampire. I absolutely adore that series. I really want to get myself physical copies of it. I read it actually on my phone from the library. I've never read a graphic novel not physically before, but I did read those on my phone because I got them from my library and I had a fantastic time with it. This is called The Firelight Apprentice. The Firelight Apprentice is apparently a middle grade graphic novel about a girl whose older sister hesitantly allows her to take an apprenticeship with a duo of magicians to help her control her own magic until rumors of a dangerous lich, L-I-C-H, am I pronouncing that correctly? I don't think so, begin to run through the town. She also has a YA book that's been picked up by HarperCollins that is a YA retelling of Dracula from the perspective of Mina Murray, Bram Stoker's oft overlooked heroine. I have no idea when Dracula is going to be released, but the first book is slated for 2024 publication, and I'm really excited to see what Brie Paulson does next. Sarah Gran is also an author that I have been on the lookout for. She wrote The Book of the Most Precious Substance, which was such an interesting book. This is a book about an occult book of sex magic, and it was a time and a half. And she apparently is working on a new book. I don't know when it's gonna come out. Hopefully 2024, we'll find out together. I told you 3, but I actually only have 2 because the last book on my list is The Witch Would Not, which I thought was coming out in November of 2024. Turns out it came out in November of 2023. It's Olivia Atwater's new book. I'm excited to read it. It's a Victorian fairy tale. She's the author of the Half a Soul series, which is Regency fairy tale romances, and now she's starting Victorian fairy tale romances. I can't wait to have another era of fairy tale romances from Olivia Atwater. And that is it. That is everything that I've been able to find information on of my most anticipated releases for 2024. I am begging you to please let me know in the comments if there's anything that you are greatly anticipating in 2024 that you didn't see on this list, or that you did see. Shout in the comments with the things that you want to see me read in 2024. I'm so excited to spend another year with you guys. I'm so excited to collect all of these books from the library, from the bookstore. I can't wait to share it all with you. I will see you next week with another video. This storm is really picking up, so I'm gonna see you later. Goodbye.